Yes, thank you, Andy. So I'm sure we're going to see the slides in a moment. And first of all, I want to proudly say that you're talking to two chairwomen and chairmen from national committees. Leila is leading the one from Cabo Verde, and I'm leading the one for Germany. But that's not the point here. What we actually want to discuss with you is one of the decade programs that is called DITTO, Digital Twins of the Ocean. And it's really, we think, a great opportunity to more intensively or more practically or more also advanced connect the sciences, the information to societal actors. So my name is Martin Visbeck. I work at GEOMAR, the Hemholtz Centre for Ocean Research at Kiel. And Leila, why don't you say again who you are?
I'm Leila from Cabo Verde. I'm the Ocean Decade focal point for Cabo Verde. I'm a communication professional and a private sector activist and an ocean lover.
Great. Next slide, please. So when we think about the opportunities, and I sometimes use this idea, I'm thinking of, I want to have an ocean with 5 dimensions. So, and what do I mean by that? An ocean 5D, I sometimes use that word. It allows us to actually look at the information of the ocean in 5 dimensions. And what do I mean by 5 dimensions? One dimension is time. We want to understand how the ocean was before our time, how it evolved to where we are today. It is really very critical to have a real-time understanding of what is happening in the ocean right now. That requires observations, understanding, and so on. But it's also in the digital world possible to look into the future and think about scenarios, what is happening in the future. The 3 other dimensions are north, south, east, west, and depths. That's obvious. But the 5th dimension I want to spend a moment on, for me as a physical scientist, this could be temperature, salinity, currents, waves. But I don't think that's exactly in this digital world what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking more of the community, let's say here in Cabo Verde. So they are more interested to understanding fish abundance, you know, what's the risk of heat waves that might compromise the ecosystems, storm surge risk exposure where I live in Germany, fishing potential, and things alike. So these are not variables, these are societal issues. And I think getting that information in a 5-dimensional way would be really helpful, because it connects the scientists, the regulators, the governments, civil society actors, private sector, and so on, but also opportunities for education. Next slide. So out of this thinking, then comes what we now call digital twins of the ocean. And this graphic goes from left to right. It shows that a critical component is observing systems. And this is a bit more of a European perspective, but I'll make it global for you. So we are in a very lucky situation that we have an increasing number of satellites looking from above onto the ocean. They can't look into the ocean. But then we have research vessels and robots and so on looking into the ocean. So collectively, we have a growing and stronger observing system. Certainly not there. The decade should advance that, but we're getting better. Now that information then needs to be looked at, processed through what I call the digital space. It's called data here. And certainly IODE, who's a co-sponsor here, knows all about that. And in Europe, we have things like EMODnet, but we also have services. So the Copernicus Marine Services is like a weather service for the ocean. It gives you an assessment of the ocean today and how it evolves in the next couple of weeks. And that doesn't only work for European waters, it also works for Cabo Verde, and actually some of the things are actually global. And that's not only the Europeans doing it, there's a couple of handful of nations, or maybe 10 around the planet who are doing that. I think the next opportunity is the increasingly cloud-based computing and data sharing. So it's the networking through the internet that allows us to much more rapidly share all the information, knowledge, and data. And that enables that building of digital twins and connects us to where the knowledge is really needed. That is in society for decision-making to support action, support governance, marine spatial planning, and the like. Next slide. So we take this approach and call it a digital twin. I think Francesco showed you where it connects to the decade. So the decade has the ambition of an accessible ocean with open access to information, and then the digital twins will help that. And in particular also says to develop a digital representation of the ocean. So I think we're touching those two. So it's a digital framework that connects all the marine data modeling, simulation capabilities, and high-performing computer, artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the like. But it also builds on and empowers best practices, how to do that. And what these digital twins allow you to do is to create or answer these what-if scenarios. And I'm going to go to that in a moment. Next slide. So when we discuss observing systems, we have value change, and also in digital twins, we have value change. So I'm going to explain the difference between an observing system value chain and a digital twin one. Next slide. So in observing systems, and again, I could have put here GOOS, the Global Ocean Observing System. Atlantis is the Atlantic version of that. But on the left, you see the networks, the data that you're generating. In the middle, it's the data portals, models, data assimilation. And on the right, you put that information out to society that then informs societal issues like storm surge protections, sightings, regulatory effort, and the like. But in ocean predictions, it's quite often looking at the nowcast and forecast. So the question you're trying to answer is, what is the state of the ocean today, and how will it change tomorrow? In mathematics, we call this an initial value problem. You have to have a good representation of the ocean today, and then you can use dynamics and system understanding to take this forward. Next slide. In digital twins, that's similar, but there's one different step. So you have the same observation, sensor data, models, and visualizations, but then there's an intervention step. So with digital twins, they come from engineering. They are meant to optimize system behavior. So you build a digital twin of an airplane, of an engine, of a ship, if you want to optimize its behavior. In environment, it is now what we're interested in, and how can we optimize the ecosystem services? And so digital twins asking a different question. They're asking what if scenarios. How will the ocean change if I put marine protected areas? How will the ocean change if I put a lot of CO2 out there? How will the ocean change if we mitigate plastic pollutions or we don't? So it's the what if questions where the intervention step is critical. And that's the difference to a forecast. It's the intervention. Next slide. And I'm giving you just two quick examples. The very well-known prototype of a digital twin are Earth system models to look at climate change scenarios. The intervention is CO2 that we put into the atmosphere, different pathways. And on the right side, you see the amount of, say, global warming that you get or sea level rise in the ocean. That's a typical digital twin for an Earth system model. Next slide. Another example that is very important for coastal communities, you ask the questions, okay, the climate community tells you sea level will be rising at different levels in different regions. But now the question is, what interventions can I do as a coastal community to mitigate that or to adapt to climate change? I can build dikes, I can increase coral growth, I can build sandbars, or maybe even mangroves. So there's different nature-based solutions or artificial solutions. And in digital twinning, you take the global system, go to a regional model, a local model, down to a right of a coastal, or even a very narrow model of a harbor. And now you ask them the question, if I did intervention A, B, C, which one is the most cost effective, and so on. So digital twinning is very much this intervention step there. Next slide. So Leila and I and the community were quite keen on seeing whether we can do something around Cabo Verde, whether we can build a digital twin of the whole ecosystem around Cabo Verde to look at things like fishing and the like. So this is just one example that we're interested in, but there can be many. So I'm always talking about digital twins, plural, of the system, not just one, depending on what the question is. Next slide. And a very important step, once you have this digital interface and models and data that come with it, how can you visualize that? So at GEOMAR, we have what we call an arena. It's a dome. It's like a 180-degree planetarium style, where you can sit inside with 6 or 8 scientists. And I sometimes call this a decision-making theater. And I wish we can build something here in Cabo Verde, right? So we can get the decision makers to come in to look at the digital twin of their environment and to show them, if you do fishing protection, if you allow for overfishing or you manage the fishing well, what it would mean for the fishing economy of Cabo Verde, the same for tourism or biodiversity. So, but this visualization is a very important and ambitious element of digital twinning, that you can really see how the environment will change depending on human actions. Next slide. So I think we covered the connection to the decade. So this is just a reminder that Challenge 8 is about this digital representation of the ocean, and in DITTO, we're really advancing that together with other colleagues in the decade. So it's really exciting for me, from a scientist point of view, to advance that technology and to make it available for everybody around the globe to share the best practices, to share the data, advanced observing systems, so we can really look at the ocean digitally today and look at its future. But what does it really mean for local people, for local realities? Leila will now explain. Next slide, please.
Para nós, tem sido fundamental entender as pessoas, o coração de cada a paixão, a profissão que escolhem por sua paixão. Então, vamos descobrindo os profissionais, os jovens profissionais que escolheram trabalhar relacionados ao oceano. Então, cada deles escolheu do seu coração que profissão seguir e trabalhar relacionado ao oceano.
Each one chose what their heart decided related to the ocean. This is the best contribution we can make, and how we can multiply this passion for the ocean. How can we show this example of young professionals for other individuals in our society and communities, the traditional and remote communities, how we can convey that information to people who are not connected. So first of all, we have passion and connectivity. Sharing information. We have world champions in this regard. Our best idea is to teach or to appropriate something that can be multiplied and share this through connectivity that we have worldwide in an easy manner. Anyone can share whatever they are doing, his or her small business, a small action in the ocean, so that all may see the good practices, and that can be multiplied. And each one may share their passion in their business, earn a living, and that may have an impact on their community. So we are going to send you the information. We are going to multiply the passion for oceans and share quickly and globally. So we want to create small labs where everyone may research and learn what they have learned, studied, or discovered. Here we have Professor Martin willing to share with us the advances of science and other people who are interested in this. We want to receive and show how we can share everything we're doing. We want to have an impact in what we are doing with the oceans. Each one of us will take care of this, and through science and our professions and professionalization of our passions, through a shorter path, because each one will work on what they like. And by taking care of the oceans, we will contribute to a bluer future.
Fantastic. We have one more slide, maybe at the end, and then we can leave it there. So I think, and you heard from Leila how exciting it is for the region here. And I think the idea is to really fully embrace the new opportunities of a digital revolution that is happening around the world. It's happening in Cabo Verde just as much as in Germany and everywhere else. And we can really build out that digital ecosystem that connects us in much more interesting ways than before. And certainly it is about this connectivity, it's about capacity building, capacity sharing, exchange of views. And I think these digital opportunities provide an exciting frame for that. So we also want to build up a community of practice around that so we can really share what's done in Cabo Verde, what's done in Germany as an example, and around the world. So thank you guys very much for giving us a chance to speak here, and we're looking forward to the discussion.
Great. Leila and Martin, thank you so much. You're both demonstrating your passion for the ocean and sharing information for the betterment of society's use of the oceans. So, Kate, do we have any?
We don't have any questions in chat, but a couple people have begun to post the examples on Miro board of their own projects inspired by these talks.
Great.
So
great.
go to Miro and.
So here's a chat. Could you please tell us how groups and countries can be considered for, hang on, I've got to open the chat.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
So for partnerships. And so I think the program, DITTO program, is just starting up. We're working on the governance and so on. There's a website I can put in the chat, but it's a prototype. We're working on a more professional one. But there is an opportunity starting, it will be announced in October and it's open till January. The decade is calling for projects. So the big program is digital twins, the best practices, but we would love if people come in and say, we want to do a project on digital twinning let's say in Indonesia or around Mauritius or in some other parts of the world. And I think that is something that we're very keen on to let people know. But we'll put in the website in a moment a way where you can register for our newsletter and you can get in contact with us in the DITTO team. So I think that's the way to go. So we're looking forward to your ideas, because we don't have all the answers, but we're building up the community that we can share.
Great. Okay.